So from that perspective, we can get on that stuff if we're boots on the ground and make it a priority, and that landfill case could have turned out a lot different. And the Providence issue, again, you know, we have, not all Democrats are corrupt, let me say that. The problem is that we have a state in which the Democrats control the legislature, and they control so much of the state because of that, and because of the inside politics that have just grown here. They operate every level in every lever at all levels of government. And because of that, when you have an attorney general who's part of that very same party, who's a powerfully connected political insider, like we have now, like we've had before, and like the people who are lining up on the other side, they are not going to be the watchdog for the people of Rhode Island, because that requires them to call out the friends and the people who put them there, and it won't happen. With me, I'm running as a Republican, but I am independent in terms of how I view that office. That office has nothing to do with whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. It is in fact, the chief law enforcement office of the state. Go ahead.
Eric, just a quick question. I heard you on the radio saying right now there's only really 2 people in the AG's office that investigate these type of crimes. You wanted to bring it to 6. Now, is that because you expect there's such a backlog?
No. Actually, what I said is that, just to be clear, I said that I at least want to have 3 seasoned prosecutors in that unit. Currently, we see essentially 1 person who also has a great deal of responsibility for white-collar crimes, all in the state, which is more than just public corruption. It includes financial crimes. Part of the problem is that right now, public corruption cases and white-collar cases are dispersed amongst other criminal attorneys in the trial counter. So you could be sitting there and 1 minute have a robbery case in which somebody's face was slashed or they were stabbed and nearly died. And the next thing you have sitting next to you is a white-collar crime, or you have some guy who was punching the time clock and was punching out when he shouldn't have been. Well, for the prosecutor on the trial calendar, obviously, you're focused on the robbery. So I think if we have a public corruption task force and people who are dedicated to that, that will give them, that's going to be their responsibility. So the emphasis of all of their efforts are going to be on that. And they won't have to make the priority decisions. The Attorney General will have exercised, I being the Attorney General, will have exercised the leadership role of essentially identifying this is your skill, this is what you're good at, and I want you to focus on that.
Question. One quick question over here for Bobby. Mr. Bobby. I have been longing to hear a Rhode Island Democrat say what you said here tonight. I mean, I've been baffled at a federal and a state level for years as to how it is that there isn't a lot more shame going around. I mean, the Republicans have their share of shame that they should feel as well. But in your position, to come out and say that, thank you very much. But this is the question. You must, given your background, know a lot of people who might be on the cusp, and maybe, how can we work with you to get them out of the closet? We need to start a groundswell of this sort of sentiment to get anywhere.
Well, it's 9 o'clock, and when you're my age, you start to get tired to answer that. But in all honesty, what really made up my mind was looking at some of the mixture of people at my first one that I went to in work. My beef with the party was that the 4 guys in Washington are useless. That's, in all honesty, it's that was my main reason for quitting. It wasn't so much with my town or my state people. It was the 4 guys in Washington. I just don't get it. So I can only tell you, I'm really too old to organize anybody, but I can tell you this here, my little secret, every day when I bump into somebody that I didn't see yesterday, I tell them my story. Do yourself a favor, do do the same thing. I know mine is between a senior center, but we vote, the old timers vote. You talk about Obama having songs in their schools. Well, I counteract that. When I babysit for my daughter, I give them an earful. So, in all honesty, am I going to do what I'm going to do tonight? Go to the meetings, talk on the street? That's what you kids need to do now. I'm too old, and I wasn't kidding when I said I have one thing left in life. I want to live long enough to vote those bumps out.
Folks, I know time's ticking, we're getting late, we're getting tired, and I think we're having fun. This is great. This is what it means to be an American. We can get together and we can debate things, you know. We could agree to disagree. You know, I might not agree with what you said, but I will defend your right to say it. But it's, you know, it's a good time here, and no matter what the topics are, it's all about being American, you know. And we have a couple of more quick questions, and then we can go to conclusions, and you know that, all right? Here we go. One more over here.
Okay, Mark, I got a question for you. What do you know about Oceans 21 and the giving over rights of Rhode Island waterways over to the federal government?
I'm not familiar with the term. I have been dealing with a lot of the fishing community down in Galilee and Point Judith, and the biggest concern that I frankly thought was the easiest thing to fix. And at the end of the last election, when I lost, I literally told Mr. Langevin that this is something he could do with a phone call. There's a lot of silliness that goes on between state waterways and federal waterways. Probably the easiest thing to fix is what's called the federal gap between Block Island and the main shoreline. State waterways extend 2 miles out, 3 miles out, and Block Island is 7 miles away. So there's a 1 mile gap. So if you catch fish in state waters using a state license, if you don't have a federal license, which is a lot more complex and expensive to get, and you got a boat full of fish, and there's no place to put them on Block Island, you can't drive them back to Point Judith where there are processing because you got to cross federal waters. And the idiocy of it all is that they catch you. They do something about that. So what has happened in New York, what has happened in Massachusetts and other states is you call up the National Oceanographic and the Atmospheric Administration and you say, draw a little corridor. And we make believe it's state waters and we mark it out and you say, drive through this channel and you're okay. That should be something that could be done easily, and it's a shame that it hasn't been done.
If you look into Oceans 21, you're going to find out that they're actually going to take that 3 mile mark and do away with it, and all the Rhode Island waterways are going to be going over to the feds.
No, that can't happen. No,
This is what they're talking about. And then also what they're talking about.
And is that for all states? That can't
Yeah, oh yeah, this is right to the Great Lakes, right across the whole nation. And this is also going to be a part of, eventually it's going to fall right into what they call the Sea Treaty, which is legislation that was put through the UN a few years ago.
Well, there's a 10th Amendment question in there somewhere.
Here.
As far as that's
Now, this is another question. What do we do as people to get some type of, to be able to vote these people out, not through an election, but hold a non-confidence act on them when they're doing stupid things?
Well, unless you can
In
get
the middle of 4 years or 6 years, we're screwed.
unless you can get somebody like Eric to determine that they have actually committed a crime. Short of committing a crime, unfortunately, stupidity is not a crime. And that's why it is incumbent upon us as voters to be very, very careful when we cast that vote.